If you had the chance to know when you were going to die, would you want to know? In the measure, that's what the world is faced with. Literally every single adult in the entire world has the option to know when they're going to die. And when I first realized that that's what the book was about, instantly I was like, of course I would want to know. Like, I would want to live my life to the fullest possible. It gave the vibes of live like you were dying. You know, I'd go skydiving and Rocky Mountain climbing. So of course, I'd want to know that so that I can live my life as well as I possibly can in the time that I have. I don't want to give too much away, and so that's kind of all I'm going to say about the book. If you want to know more though, let me know in the comments if you want me to give a whole synopsis of the book. I'd be happy to do that, but you could also just read the book, which I highly recommend. But let's go into ratings. So I'm going to use a 5-star rating system, and I'll rate it in 5 different categories, and then I'll give my overall rating of the book. First, you should know I am not that easy to please. I'm kind of a harsh judger. A 5 to me is this book rocked my world, changed my life, and I will be reading it every single year for the rest of my life. A 4 is this was a great book, not really anything bad to say about it, but not life-changing. And then a 3 is just your average book. So don't be thinking that a 3 is bad necessarily, although a 1 is bad, I will say that. For writing, I give this book 4 stars. Nothing that astounding about it, but it was well written. I know this is the author's first book, and so I was kind of surprised, honestly, at how well it was written. The dialogue is pretty natural. There were a few times where I was like, okay, real people don't say, these things to each other. But yeah, I thought it was well written, and really don't have any major complaints on the writing. Characters, I give 3 stars. I didn't believe the characters were real people. For the most part. There were a lot of characters in this book, and no one character was the protagonist, and so you didn't get development for a specific character, and I think because of that you didn't see a lot of growth. However, that's not to say there was no growth. There was character development. I thought that the characters interacted well together, but there were a few specific characters where I was turned off by them, not because of who the character, the qualities of the character, but because they were not real enough to me, and I don't think that real people act in ways that some of the characters acted. And so the characters were fine, but there were none that I was vying for or that I really, really loved, but there were some that I was oh, I'm so happy that worked out for them. I give the plot 4 stars. I think it's a really unique plot, a unique basis for a story, and I think it progressed really well, although there were a few parts where I think the implications of of having strings that tell the length of your life, and everybody in the world has this, I feel there would be greater implications for that than the book addressed, but it also addressed some that I wouldn't have thought of, and so that was interesting to have new ideas and think about what the world would look like when nothing else has really changed. We're still in the same world that we live in today, but there's this one little element that is so huge in your lives. It kept me engaged enough, which leads into my next rating, which is readability. I give readability 4 stars. I wasn't so excited to pick up this book and read it again, which for some books I am, and that's where I would give a 5-star, but I wasn't dreading it either, and sometimes I am dreading. I'm I just need to get through this book. That wasn't the case for this one. I enjoyed it. It was a pretty quick read for me. It didn't take a lot of thought process to understand. So I really appreciated that it was an easy read. And then finally, applicability, how applicable it is in my life, the themes that I took away from it, what kind of person I am because I read it. I give this actually 5 stars because it made me think so much about our lives are so short and they can end on a whim. In fact, I was literally in my bed next to my husband crying the other night because I thought he could literally die at any moment, and what would I do? What would my life look like? Because this book had me reflecting on that kind of stuff so much, and I think that's really healthy actually, to recognize that life is short and think about how you want to live life to the fullest and what do you actually care about and what do you value in your life. And this book really forced those questions on me, and I've continued to think about that throughout reading this book, and now that I've finished the book, I've continued to think about that, and I think that's had a really positive impact in my life and how I'm spending my time and how intentional I'm being. So for all of that, I give it 5 stars on life application. I also just love the themes of friendship that are in it, of responsibility, and also there are some themes of ethics, and even it gets into politics a little bit. And I thought that was really interesting to think through, and again, to see the implications of this idea of these strings and how that would affect so much of our world. So 5 stars to that. Finally, how well does this book audiobook? There's a big debate. This is a touchy subject for some people. I know that it's not literally reading when you listen to an audiobook, but you are still consuming the book and you can still provide thoughts on the book. So I do a lot of audiobooks. I also read a lot of books. I did this one as an audiobook. I listened to it, and I will say with audiobooks generally, I think that you retain less, or rather like you process less in the moment. But let's talk about it in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts about the audiobook debate. Are you an audiobooker? Are you a reader only, or do you meet with me somewhere in the middle? Let me know. I think this book audiobooks really, really well. Again, like I said, it's really easy to follow. It doesn't cause you to like stop and think too much, and so it's an easy listen. And I liked the narrator. The narrator does good voices, and that's one of the things I do like about audiobooks. So I would recommend audiobooking it if you like to audiobook. Overall, this book gets a solid 4.0. I would recommend this book to you if you like good, heartwarming, thought-provoking stories. If you're able to suspend your disbelief a little bit into this scenario where nobody knows where these strings came from, you have to just kind of allow the fact that could happen. If you like ethics and considering what is ethical and getting kind of philosophical with that, I think you would enjoy this book. All right, if you liked this book or this video, give me a like, throw in a subscribe, and follow me on Goodreads. My links are all down below. I'll see you next time.